A photo leaked. A white studio. A blonde man holding a small camera, wearing a simple brown sweater and black wide leg pants. No caption. No announcement. And within hours, that sweater was completely sold out on Farfetch. Gone. Every size. Every color. But here's the thing nobody's talking about. Farfetch didn't choose Jimin because he's famous. They chose him because of something much more calculated than that. And today, I'm going to show you exactly what that is. If you don't know what Farfetch is, let me give you the short version. Farfetch is one of the most powerful luxury e-commerce platforms on the planet. They sell Balenciaga, Gucci, Dior, Saint Laurent, brands that have been dressing the world's elite for centuries. They are not a brand that chases hype. They don't make decisions based on who's trending on Twitter. Every choice they make is backed by data, strategy, and a very precise understanding of who their customer is and what moves them to spend money. So when Farfetch decided to bring Jimin into a studio, styled him, lit him, and built a campaign around him, that was not a casual decision. That was the result of a very long conversation about numbers. And today, I want to walk you through those numbers because they tell a story that Farfetch would never tell you themselves. Let's start with Paris, October 2025. Jimin has just returned from his mandatory military service in South Korea, 2 years away from the public eye. And his first major fashion appearance after his return, Dior's Paris Fashion Week show. He walked in wearing a black blazer with no shirt underneath, flared leather pants, and blonde hair that looked like it was engineered specifically to make the internet stop scrolling. Within 12 hours, his name had been mentioned over 4.8 million times on X. Not in a day, in 12 hours. But the number that really got the fashion industry's attention came from Launchmetrics, a firm that specializes in measuring the financial value of media exposure. Their report showed that Jimin generated over $33.8 million in media impact value for Dior from that single appearance alone. One appearance, $33.8 million. For context, that figure made him the highest-performing K-pop idol across all 4 major fashion weeks combined. Paris, Milan, London, New York. Every K-pop idol who attended any show at any of those 4 cities that season, Jimin outperformed all of them. Together, the analytics platform Lefty reported that BTS, as a group, generated $39.26 million in earned media value across the 2025 Fashion Week season. And Jimin was the most cited individual member across all coverage. The platform Inclusive found that he held a 17.06% share of voice at Paris Fashion Week, making him the most mentioned K-pop idol at the entire event. Dior became the #1 most mentioned brand at that Fashion Week. And 9 of the top 20 Fashion Week hashtags were directly connected to Jimin. Now, you are Farfetch. You are looking at these numbers. What do you do? But before we get to Farfetch's answer, I want to pause here for a second, because I think it's easy to read those statistics and let them blur into abstraction. 33 million, 17% share of voice, 9 hashtags. They're impressive numbers, but numbers alone don't tell you what it actually felt like to be in the fashion industry that week in Paris and watch what Jimin did to the room. Industry insiders who were there described it the same way, consistently. The energy shifted the moment he arrived. Not because he demanded attention, he never does, but because the attention followed him anyway, instinctively, the way a crowd naturally orients towards something that carries genuine weight. Editors who had covered fashion for decades said they had not seen a non-model, non-designer create that kind of gravitational pull at a show since the early days of celebrity front rows in the 90s. That is not a metric, but it is the reason behind every metric that followed. Here is where it gets even more interesting. Because Jimin's influence on fashion isn't just measured in media mentions and MIV scores. It's measured in something far more concrete: empty shelves. Before the Farfetch campaign even happened, the pattern was already well established. A nude Sandro sweater that Jimin wore, not for a campaign, just casually, sold out on Farfetch. Not on the brand's own website. On Farfetch, meaning army across the world went specifically to that platform as their first destination to find the item. Bottega Veneta sandals he wore at the airport sold out on the brand's official website within hours. Celine trousers he wore at a music show, gone in every available size. A Casablanca cardigan he wore in a video message to fans disappeared from her sleepers. Items from brands he wasn't even formally affiliated with would vanish simply because he wore them once in public. The research firm NetBase Quid documented that Jimin was the most mentioned individual in the apparel and accessories category, and the name above him on that list wasn't another celebrity or model. There was no name above him. He was the top, beating established luxury house names, beating supermodels with decades of career behind them. This is the pattern Farfetch saw, and this is a pattern they bet on. When Farfetch chooses to build a campaign around someone, they're not just paying for exposure. They are paying for conversion. They need people to go from seeing a photo to opening a browser tab to entering a credit card number. And Jimin's track record on that specific journey, see, want, buy, is documented, repeated, and consistent in a way that almost no other figure in entertainment can claim. But there's a dimension to this story that goes beyond numbers. Because Farfetch isn't just a store. It's a curator. It's a taste-making institution in the luxury world. And when they associate their platform with a person, they are making a statement about who that person is, not just how popular they are. Jimin is not someone who got handed expensive clothes and told to look good for the camera. Fashion people who have worked with him describe someone who actually understands the language of clothing, who has opinions, who contributes to the creative process. When he showed up to Paris Fashion Week without a shirt under his blazer, that was his idea, not his stylist's. His. This matters enormously to the luxury consumer that Farfetch is targeting. This is a generation of buyers, predominantly in their 20s and 30s, who can tell the difference between someone who is paid to wear something and someone who actually inhabits it. They are not moved by endorsement deals alone. They are moved by authenticity, by the sense that the person in front of them genuinely understands and values what they are wearing. Jimin gives them that. Not performed, not calculated, genuinely. He has spoken in interviews about how much he thinks about visual identity, about how clothes communicate something before you even speak. He collaborates with Dior's creative team, not just shows up for fittings. That level of genuine engagement with fashion is rare in any talent at any level of fame. Think about what that means for the consumer on the other side of a screen. When they see Jimin in that brown sweater, they're not looking at a transaction. They are looking at a person who chose that sweater because it meant something to him. The cut, the color, the weight of the fabric, the way it falls when you lean forward with a camera in your hand. That specificity is what luxury consumers respond to. Not the price tag, not the brand name, the intention behind the choice. This is something that cannot be manufactured or briefed into existence. Either a person has genuine taste and genuine curiosity about fashion, or they don't. And the luxury industry, which has been in the business of identifying authenticity for centuries, can tell the difference immediately. The fact that Dior, one of the most prestigious houses in the world, has kept Jimin as a global ambassador for multiple years is not a coincidence. It is a verdict. And when Farfetch looked at that verdict, they understood exactly what it meant. And Farfetch, which positions itself not just as a place to shop but as a destination for people who care deeply about fashion, needs exactly that kind of figure as its face. Now let's talk about ARMY, because you cannot understand why any luxury brand chooses Jimin without understanding what his fanbase actually represents as a consumer force. ARMY is not a typical fanbase. The scale is global. Hundreds of millions of people across every continent, every demographic, every income bracket. But more importantly, they are organized. They move with a speed and coordination that has no equivalent in Western entertainment. When Jimin wears something, the information, the brand name, the model number, the direct link to purchase, is circulating on every major platform within minutes. Not hours, minutes. Brandwatch reported that brand ambassador mentions increased by 166% in 2025, with K-pop idols leading that trend. And across all K-pop content, BTS-related mentions dominated. 5 of the 10 most popular Fashion Week hashtags of the year involved BTS members. Jimin alone outpaced entire brand PR teams in terms of organic reach and engagement. But here is what matters most for Farfetch specifically. ARMY doesn't just create noise. They convert. The people who see Jimin wearing something on Farfetch are not passive observers. They are active shoppers with purchasing intent. They are exactly the kind of high-intent consumer that a luxury e-commerce platform spends millions trying to attract through traditional advertising, and Jimin brings them directly to the platform, already warmed up, already wanting. When that brown sweater sold out after the Farfetch photo shoot images circulated, it wasn't because of Farfetch's own marketing. It was because ARMY found the item, identified it, shared the link, and collectively decided they needed it. That entire process, awareness, identification, desire, purchase, happened organically. Farfetch didn't have to engineer it. Jimin's presence made it happen automatically. And this is what separates ARMY from any other fan base in the world right now. It's not just the size, it's the infrastructure. There are dedicated accounts that do nothing but identify every item Jimin wears, brand, season, price point, and direct purchase link within minutes of any new image appearing online. There are spreadsheets, there are Discord servers, there are curated boards updated in real time. The fan ecosystem around Jimin's fashion choices functions like a distributed marketing team that works around the clock, across every time zone for free. No brand can buy that with a budget. You cannot hire an agency to replicate the kind of organic, passionate, precise consumer behavior that ARMY produces every single time Jimin appears in something new. And the brands that have understood this, Dior, Tiffany, later, and now Farfetch, have all benefited in ways their own internal teams could not have generated independently. Jimin is not just a face. He is an entire distribution network walking into your studio in a brown sweater. So now we arrive at the real reason Farfetch chose Jimin. And I want to be precise about this because it's more sophisticated than it might appear. Farfetch is a multi-brand platform. Unlike Dior or Celine or Tiffany, they don't have a single creative identity to project. Their identity is curation, the act of bringing the best of global luxury into one place and making it accessible. The challenge for a platform like Farfetch is that curation without a human face is just a search engine. They need someone who embodies the spirit of their platform, someone who moves effortlessly across brands, across aesthetics, across cultural contexts, and makes all of it feel cohesive and intentional. Jimin does this better than almost anyone in entertainment today. His portfolio, Dior for fashion, Tiffany for fine jewelry, later for beauty, Samsung for technology, spans categories in a way that reflects how modern luxury consumers actually live. They don't just buy one brand. They build a life out of many. Jimin's presence across those categories makes him the ideal ambassador for a platform that sells all of them. Tatler Asia noted in their 2026 analysis that Jimin's commercial portfolio stretches from Paris Atelier to Seoul Beauty Lab to global tech campaigns, a footprint that almost no single individual in entertainment currently holds. That footprint is precisely what makes him such a natural fit for Farfetch, which wants to be the destination for exactly that kind of multi-category luxury consumer. And here is the final piece of the strategy. When a consumer comes to Farfetch because of Jimin, because they want that brown sweater, because they want to own something connected to his aesthetic, they don't leave after buying one item. They browse, they explore, they discover other brands. They come back. Jimin doesn't just sell what he wears. He brings people into an ecosystem and lets the platform do the rest. That is not luck. That is the most valuable thing a brand ambassador can do. And that is why Farfetch chose ParkJimin. There is one more thing worth saying here, and it is perhaps the most honest observation of all. The luxury industry has a long history of treating its ambassadors as decorative elements, beautiful people placed in beautiful settings to make beautiful products look desirable. That model is dying. The consumer of 2026 is too sophisticated for it. They can tell when someone is just showing up for a check. They can tell when the relationship between a person and a brand is hollow at its core. What Jimin offers is the opposite of that. Every brand he has worked with has reported not just sales impact but cultural impact, a shift in how their brand is perceived, who it attracts, what conversations it becomes part of. Dior's presence in K-pop culture is now so deeply associated with Jimin that the two names are almost inseparable in certain markets. That kind of brand fusion does not happen with a hollow relationship. It happens when a person genuinely embodies what a brand stands for, and when a brand is smart enough to let that person lead. Farfetch made the same bet, and if the sold-out sweater is any indication, they already know it was the right one. So the next time you see a photo of Jimin in a white studio, holding a small camera, wearing something that will be sold out before you finish watching this video, understand that what you are looking at is not just a pretty picture. You are looking at the result of very precise calculations made by very serious people in one of the most competitive industries in the world. They chose him not because he is famous. Fame is easy to find. They chose him because his presence converts attention into action, exposure into revenue, and a single behind-the-scenes photograph into a global sold-out event. And they will never say this out loud, because in the luxury world, you don't explain your strategy. You just execute it. And ParkJimin, he executes it every single time. If you found this video interesting, hit subscribe, because we cover the business of K-pop and BTS in a way you will not find anywhere else. And drop a comment below, which sold-out Jimin moment surprised you the most. I will see you in the next one.